Blessed morning, friends and family. Bless, bless. Blessed morning, Manuka. Bless. Blessed morning, Manuka. Bless. 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 Good morning. Good morning. I hope you're having an amazing weekend. It's almost over. Uh, and hi. Hi. You've been waiting all week for today. I know. Sunday, the Lord's Day. Also, the first Sunday of the year. Hooray! We haven't done a Bible stream since last year. um, who can remember what happened last week? And last week we're starting a new book, Samuel 2 book. Samuel 2, book 2 of Samuel. Even though I thought Samuel died, so I don't know why it's a book about Samuel. I don't really remember what happened at the end last week. Saul tries to kill David for the 5th time and it didn't work. And then he died. He died. I thought Samuel died, but now at the beginning of this book it says Saul died. David spares the life of Saul, and Saul's like, I will repay this by attempting to kill you 2 more times. And it didn't work. So, shall we begin? Today's church is a short church, and then afterwards we're playing Resident Evil 6 with Slide. It's short church because this book is a short book, and if I go for 2 hours, then next week the book is gonna only have like 6 chapters left, and that's not enough. So I don't wanna be like, whoa, what do I do now? You know? Yeah. In the beginning of time, God created this. After the death of Saul, David returned from striking down the Amalekites and stayed in Ziklag 2 days. On the 3rd day, a man arrived from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he came to David, he fell to the ground to pay him honor. Where have you come from? David asked him. He answered, I have escaped from the Israeli light camp. What happened? David asked. Tell me. The man fled from the battle, he replied. Many of them fell and died, and Saul and his son Jonathan are dead. Okay, maybe this just happened. Then David said to the young man who brought him the report, how do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead? I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, the young man said. And there was Saul leaning on his spear, with the chariots and their drivers in hot pursuit. Oh yes, I remember now. At the end, Saul was chased into like a cave, I think. and because he did not want to die in battle, or he did not want to um he did not want to die by David, so he impaled himself with a spear. Bwah. And how do you know that Saul and his Jonathan are dead? I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, the young man said, and there was Saul leaning on his spear with the chariots and their drivers in hot pursuit. Wasn't Saul who died? Wasn't it Saul who died, not Samuel? Samuel died too. I remember Samuel dying and being like, whoa, what? He's dead? But there's a whole nother book. Saul died from the spear, but I heard that Samuel died unrelated to that, and Samuel was just dead. He just he just died for no reason. Oh. When he turned around and saw me, he called out to me, and I said, "What can I do?" He asked me, "Who are you?" "An Amalekite," I answered. Then he said to me, "Stand here by me and kill me." I'm in the throes of death, but I'm still alive. So I stood beside him and killed him. What? Yeah, he called me. So I stood beside him and killed him because I knew that after he had fallen, he could not survive. And I took the crown that was on his head and the band on his arm and have brought them here to my lord. Yeah, they talked to Samuel's ghost. Oh, yes. Then David and all the men with him took hold of their clothes and tore them. They mourned and wept and fasted till evening for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the army of the Lord, and for the nation of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. David said to the young man who brought him to the report, "Where are you from?" "I am the son of a foreigner, an Amalekite," he answered. David asked him, "Why weren't you afraid to lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" Then David called one of his men and said, "Go, strike him down." So he is struck down. Go, strike him down. So he is struck down, and he died. For David had said to him, "Your blood be on your own head. Your own mouth testified against you when you said, 'I killed the Lord's anointed.'" But what if the Lord's anointed says to kill him? David's lament. David's such a cool guy. After everything, he puts all of his personal feelings aside and he's like, the God picked this man, even though I don't like him very much because he tried to kill me 10 or so times. He's still the Lord picked him. He's still the Lord's anointed. This man can do no wrong aside killing women and children. David took up the lament concerning Saul and his son Jonathan, and he ordered that people of Judah be taught this lament of the bow. It is written in the book of Jeshar, brackets. A gazelle lies slain in your heights, Israel. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath, proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines be glad, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised rejoice. Mountains of Gilboa, May you have neither dew nor rain. May no showers fall on your terraced fields, for there the shield of the mighty was despised, the shield of Saul no longer rubbed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the flesh of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan did not turn back, the sword of Saul did not return unsatisfied. Saul and Jonathan, in life they were loved and admired, and in death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Daughters of Israel, weep for Saul, who clothed you in scarlet finery, who adorned your garments with ornaments of gold. How the mighty have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies slain on your heights. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women.
Blessed
How
morning, Manuka.
Hi Haku, the wolf spirit, blessed morning. How the mighty have fallen. The weapons of war have perished. In the course of time, David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I go up to one of the towns of Judah?" he asked. The Lord said, "Go up." David asked. "Go up." David asked, "Where shall I go?" "To Hebron," the Lord answered. I'm very full. I have very full. A lot of chicken in my tummy. So David went there with his two wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. David also took the men who were with him, each with his family, and they settled in Hebron and its towns. Then the men of Judah came to Hebron, and there they anointed King David over the tribe of Judah. When David was told that it was the men from Jabesh Gilead who had buried Saul, he sent messages to them to say, "The Lord bless you for showing this kindness to Saul, your master, by burying him." Manuka, you have a new hairstyle. Happy New Year. No, this is I'm doing a cosplay right now. Good morning. I'm doing cosplay. I'm dressed up like Luce from Vatican. Uh and may the Lord now show you kindness and faithfulness, and I too will show you the same favor because you have done this. Now then, be
Number
strong and
19,
brave.
mouse and baked beans.
Oh my gosh. Good morning. Hi. Now then, be strong and brave, for Saul your master is dead, and the people of Judah have anointed me king over them. Meanwhile, Abner, son of Ner, the commander of Saul's army, had taken Bosheth, son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim. He made him king over Gilead, Ashuri, and Jezreel, and also over Ephraim, Benjamin, and all Israel. Ishbosheth, son of Saul, was 40 years old when he became king over Israel, and he reigned 2 years. The tribe of Judah, however, remained loyal to David. The length of time David was king in Hebron over Judah was 7 years and 6 months. Abner, son of Ner, together with the men of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, left Mahanaim and went to Gibeon. Joab, son of Zeruiah, and David's men went out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. One group sat down on one side of the pool and one group on the other side. Then Abner said to Joab, "Let's have some of the youngest men get up and fight hand to hand in front of us." "All right, let them do it," Joab said. So they stood up and were counted off, 12 men for Benjamin and Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and 12 for David. Then each man grabbed his opponent by the head and thrust his dagger into the opponent's side. They fell down together. So that place in Gibeon was called Helkath Hazarim. What? Then each man grabbed his opponent by the head and thrust his dagger into the opponent's side. What? I thought they were doing like a hand to hand combat, like for funsies, because like around the pool. What? Am I misunderstanding what is red? What is red right now? Joab went and met them at the pool. One group sat down, the other sat down. "Let's have some of the young men get up and fight." So they stood up, counted off, and then shanked each other. The battle that day was very fierce, and Abner the Israelite were defeated by David's men. The three sons of Zeruiah were there: Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. Now Asahel was a fleet-footed and wild gazelle. He chased Abner, turning neither to the right nor to the left, as he pursued him. Abner looked behind him and asked, "Is that you, Ashel?" "It is," he answered. Then Abner said to him, "Turn aside to the right or to the left. Take one of the young men and strip him of his weapons." But Ashel would not stop chasing him. Again Abner warned Ashel, "Stop chasing me! Why should I strike you down? How could I look your brother Joab in the face?" But Asahel refused to give up the pursuit. So Abner thrust the butt of his spear into Asahel's stomach, and the spear came out through his back. He fell there and died on the spot. And every man stopped when he came to the place where Asahel fallen and died. But Joab and Abishai pursued Abner, and as the sun was setting, they came to the hill of Ammah, near Giah, on the way to the wasteland of Gibeon. Then the men of Benjamin rallied behind Abner. They formed themselves into a group and took their stand on top of the hill. Abner called out to Joab, "Must the sword devour forever? Don't you realize that this will end in bitterness? How long before your order of men to stop pursuing their fellow Israelites?" Ah, Joab answered, "As surely as the God lives, um, if you had not spoken, the men would have continued pursuing them until morning." So Joab blew the trumpet, and all the troops came to a halt. They no longer pursued Israel, nor did they fight any more. All that night Abner and his men marched through the Arba. They crossed the Jordan, continued through the morning hours, and came to Mahanaim. Then Joab stopped pursuing Abner and assembled the whole army, besides Asahel. 19 of David's men were found missing. But David's men had killed 360 Benjaminites who were in Abner. They took Asahel and buried him in his father's tomb at Bethlehem. Then Joab and his men marched all night and arrived at Hebron by daybreak. The war between the house of Saul and the house of David lasted a long time. David grew stronger and stronger, while the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon, the son of Ahinoam of Jezreel. His second, Kiliab, the son of Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. The third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. Hmm. The fourth, Adonijah, the son of Haggith. The fifth, Shephatiah, the son of Abital. And the sixth, Ithream, son of the David's wife, Eglah. These were born to David in Hebron. During the war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner had been strengthening his own position in the house of Saul. Now Saul had had the concubine named Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, and Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why did you sleep with my father's concubine? What is happening anymore?" Abner was very angry because of what. Normal if you don't understand it as you read. Yeah. Abner was very angry because of what Ishbosheth said, so he answered, "Am I a dog's head on Judah's side? This is a very bad day. I am loyal to the house of your father Saul and to his family and friends. I haven't handed you over to David. Yet now you accuse me of an offense involving this woman. May God deal with Abner, be it ever so severely, if I do not do for David what the Lord promised him on oath, and transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and establish David's throne over Israel and Judah from Dan to Beersheba." Ishbosheth did not dare say another word to Abner because he was afraid of him. Then Abner sent messengers on his behalf to say to David, "Whose land is it? Make an agreement with me, and I will help you bring all Israel over to you." "Good," said David. "I will make an agreement with you, but I demand one thing of you. Do not come into my presence unless you bring Michal, daughter of Saul, when you come to see me." Then David sent messages to Ishbosheth, son of Saul, demanding, "Give me my wife, Michal, whom I betrothed to myself for the price of 100 Philistine foreskins." So Ishbosheth gave orders and had her taken away from her husband Paltiel, son of Laish. Yeah, I read that right. Her husband, however, went with her, weeping behind her all the way to Bahurim. Then Abner said to him, "Go back home." So he went back. Abner conferred with the elders of Israel and said, "For some time you have wanted to make David your king. Now do it, for the Lord promised David, 'By my servant David, I will rescue my people from Israel from the hand of the Philistines and from the hand of all their enemies.'" Abner also spoke to the Benjaminites in person. Then he went to Hebron to tell David everything that Israel and the whole tribe of Benjamin wanted to do. When Abner, who had 20 men with him, came to David at Hebron, David prepared a feast for him and his men. Then Abner said to David, "Let me go at once and assemble all Israel for my lord the king, so that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may rule over all that your heart desires." So David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. Just then David's men and Joab returned from a raid, and brought with them a great deal of plunder. But Abner was no longer with David in Hebron, because David had sent him away, and he had gone in peace. So Joab went to the king and said, "What have you done? Look, Abner came to you. Why did you let him go? Now he is gone. You know Abner, son of Ner. He came to deceive you and observe your movements and find out everything you are doing." Joab then left David and sent messages after Abner, and they brought him back from the cistern of Sirah. But David did not know. Now when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him inside in the inner chamber, as if to speak with him privately. And there, to avenge the blood of his brother, Asahel, who? Joab stabbed him in the stomach, and he died. Later, when David heard about this, he said, I and my kingdom are forever innocent before the Lord concerning the blood of Abner, son of Ner. May his blood fall on the head of Joab and on his whole family. May Joab's family never be without someone who has a running sore or leprosy, or who leans on a crutch, or who falls by the sword, or who lacks food. Joab and his brother Abishai murdered Abner because he had killed their brother Asahel in the battle of Gibeon. Then David said to Joab, that was in brackets. Then David said to Joab and all the people with him, tear your clothes and put on a sackcloth and walk in mourning in front of Abner. King of David himself walked behind the bier. They buried Abner in Hebron, and the king wept aloud at Abner's tomb. All the people wept also. The king sang this lament from Abner. Should, Ab- should Abner have died as lawless die? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not fettered. You fell as one falls before the wicked. And all the people wept over him again. Hi, Joel. Good morning. Then they all came and urged David to eat something while it
Blessed
was still
morning,
day.
Manuka.
Bless. I still day. Where? But David took an oath. Saying, may God deal with me, be it so ever so severely, if I taste bread or anything else before the sun sets. All the people took note and were pleased. Indeed, everything the king did pleased them. So on that day, all the people there and all Israel knew that the king had no part in the murder of Abner, son of Ner. Are you interested in the New Testament? Yes. We will after I finish the Old Testament, I'll be reading the New Testament also. And then after that, we'll see what happens. So many options out there. Much better. Well, you have to read the prequel before the book, you know? I need a you have to Jesus is like a later thing. It's like ooh, what's the history the of 2000, the year 2000 without knowing all of the history of without knowing what happened in the olden days about the wars and stuff. The Quran comes after the New Testament? Really? Really? But the Old Testament is just a preparation for the coming of Jesus Christ. Yeah, so wouldn't you want to know what happens before Jesus Christ comes? Like the world didn't just start when Jesus Christ was born. A lot happened before that. Do you? Yeah? That's why I'm reading it. Mm.
Blessed morning, Manuka.
Hi, Elias Felsbon. Good morning. And then And then no, the king took no part in the murder of Abner. Then the king said to his men, "Do you not realize that a commander and a great man has fallen in Israel this day? And today, though I am the anointed king, I am weak, and these sons of Zuriah are too strong for me. May the Lord repay the evildoer according to his deeds." When Ishbosheth, son of Saul, heard that Abner had died in Hebron, he lost courage, and all Israel became alarmed. Now Saul's son had two men who were leaders of raiding bands. One was named Baana, and the other Rechab. They were sons of Rimmon and the Beerothite, from the tribe of Benjamin. Beeroth is considered part of Benjamin, because the people of Beeroth fled to Gittaim and have resided there as foreigners to this day. Brackets, Jonathan, son of Saul, had a son who was lame in both feet. He was 5 years old when the news about Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel. His nurse picked him up and fled, but she hurried to leave. He fell and became disabled. His name was Mephibosheth. Hi. Now Rechab and Baanah, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, set out for the house of Ishbosheth. They arrived there in the heat of the day while he was taking his noonday rest. They went into the inner part of the house as if to get some wheat, and they stabbed him in the stomach. Then Rechab and his brother Baanah slipped away. Yeah, in the stomach. They stabbed him in the stomach. Then they slipped away. They had gone into the house while he was lying on the bed in his bedroom. After they stabbed and killed him, they cut off his head, taking it with them. They traveled all night by way of the Arba. They brought the head of Ishbosheth to David at Hebron and said to the king, "Here is the head of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, your enemy who tried to kill you. This day the Lord has avenged my lord and the king against Saul and his offerings." David answered Rechab and his brother Baanah, and sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, "As surely as the Lord lives, who has delivered me out of every trouble, when someone told me Saul is dead and thought he was bringing good news, I seized him and put him to death in Ziklag, and was the reward I gave him. That was the reward I gave him for his news." The Old Testament is rather cruel and sometimes illogical. Yeah, but it's history. It's not a fairy tale. The stuff was accounted in a book, proclaimed as history. You you you, you can't you can't be like um you can't say you can't deny that you can't say that it didn't happen, or you can't ignore it because it was cruel and illogical. I mean, some of it might be a fairy tale. Oh, we don't know. We don't know what's real and what's not real. But to believe in Jesus Christ and Christianity, you have to like this is also part of this is also part of what happened. So if you believe that to be true, then this is also true. And it's ignorant to like ignore it, ignore the history that happened, like Holocaust deniers, right? Or something like that. I lost my spot. What did I say? I didn't mean that. I don't think that's related. I don't know why I said that. As surely they brought Jesus Christ came to complete the laws and the ancient prophets. Yeah. Spoiler alert. They brought the head of Ishbosheth to David at Hebron and said to the king, "Here is the head of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, your enemy who tried to kill you. This day the Lord has avenged my lord, the king against Saul and his offspring." David answered Rechab and his brother Benah, the sons of Rimmon and Beerothite, "As surely as the Lord lives, who has delivered me out of every trouble." That's why the New Testament teachings made more sense. Well, yeah, I guess when the Old Testament is like old and how things worked in the olden days, somebody then rewrote their own book of rules, i.e. Jesus Christ, an updated version, right? I'm not reading the Old Testament and thinking, "Oh yeah, you know what? I really like what's going on in this book. This is what I believe in, and this is what we should do." No, I'm just reading a story it's interesting about. It's an interesting book, and it's what people believe in, and it's it's good to know what people believe in or something. What? David Dave David thank you. If you think it's good to know, we respect your decision. Well, I mean, yeah, why not? I'm not Christian, so I don't I don't um believe in Jesus, but it's nice to know what other people believe in. That isn't to say that I believe in my own religion. I'm more of like an agnostic type. It's pogus if it's true, but if it's whatever. But right now I'm reading it like it's true. This book is fact to me right now. Bugging for Jesus. I believe some like at least some of what's written in the Bible is has to have some validity, right? Like they didn't have AI back in those days. They couldn't have written all of this. Oops. And also, it doesn't hurt to to believe in something. You know, you just don't make it about. You just don't make your whole personality about it. And then it doesn't hurt to like. It's cool. Jesus Christ. Well, I don't know anything about Jesus Christ, but he sounds like a cool guy. David, what we're reading about sounds like a pretty cool guy. He's so far been one of the most righteous men in the Bible. David from David and Goliath, aside from when he killed the whole bunch of women and children. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll read the New Testament and we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, maybe it turns out Jesus isn't such a great guy, but I don't know till I read it. When someone told me, okay, let me start this page again. They brought me the head of Ishbosheth to David at Hebron and said to the king. Bible is also in a lot of other media, so we might get more reference. Oh yes, yes. Religion is everywhere. And when you criticize something, it's also important to understand what you're criticizing instead of just being a hater. Not that I would ever criticize the Bible. The work of the Lord, the work of the Lord is gospel. They brought me the head. They brought the head of Ishbosheth to David at Hebron, and said to the king, "Here is the head of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, your enemy who tried to kill you. This day the Lord has avenged my lord, the king, against Saul and his offspring." David answered Rechab and his brother Benah, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, "As surely as the Lord lives, who has delivered me out of every trouble." When somebody told me Saul is dead and thought he was bringing good news, I seized him and put him to death in Ziklag. That was the reward I gave him for his news. That's like an old timey um gotcha moment. Aha! He thought it was good that Saul was dead, but I showed him by killing him. And then everybody at the round table was like having a hearty laugh. How much more, when wicked men have killed an innocent man in his own house and on his own bed, should I not now demand his blood from your hand and rid the earth of you? So David gave an order to his men, and they killed him. They cut off his hands and feet and hung the bodies by the pool in Hebron. But they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in Abner's tomb at Hebron. All the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "We are your own flesh and blood. In the past, when Saul was king over us, you were the one who led Israel on their military campaigns. And the Lord said to you, 'You will shepherd my people, Israel, and you will become their ruler.' When all the when all the elders in Israel had come to King David at Hebron, the king made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years. In Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem, he reigned over all Israel and Judah 33 years. The king and his men marched to Jerusalem to attack the Jebusites who lived there. The Jebusites said to David, "You will not get in there. Even the blind and the lame can ward you off." They thought, "David cannot get in here." Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, which is the city of David. On that day, David had said, "Anyone who conquers the Jebusites will have to use the water shaft to reach those lame and blind who are David's enemies. That is why they, the blind and lame, will not enter the palace." David then took up residence in the fortress and called it the city of David. He built up the area around it from the terraces inward, and he became more and more powerful because the Lord God Almighty was with him. I hope David stays the course and doesn't become corrupt. My heart will break. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent envoys to David, along with cedar logs and carpenters and stonemasons, and they built a palace for David. Then David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel and had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people, Israel. After he left Hebron, David took more concubines and wives in Jerusalem, and more sons and daughters were born to him. I can't hear myself talking. Uh, After he left Hebron, David took more concubines and wives in Jerusalem, and more sons and daughters were born to him. There are also names of these are the names of the children born to him there: Shammua, Shabab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibahar, Elishua, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphelet. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, they went up in full force to search for him. But David heard about it and went down to the stronghold. Now the Philistines had come and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired to the Lord, "Shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hands?" The Lord answered him, "Go, for I will surely deliver the Philistines into your hands." So David went to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. He said, "As water breaks out, the Lord has spoken out against my enemies before me." So that place was called Baal Perazim. The Philistines abandoned their idols there, and David and his men carried them off. Once more the Philistines came up and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. What is a Philistine? I don't know what that is. What country is that? What is a Philistine? Is that is that is that uh 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 Once more the Philistines came up and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of the Lord, and he answered, "Do not go straight up, but circle around behind them and attack them in front of the poplar trees. As soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the poplar trees, move quickly, because that will mean the Lord has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army." I think they are the people who are the enemy. No, yeah, I know they are the enemies, but who are they? Is that like um the the like Arabic countries, or is that like Egypt, or are they just like or are they like an extinct people now? like the Philistines all died in Israel and no longer exist. Is that like Palestine? Philistine? Southern Palestine? Okay. So once more the Philistines came up and spread out in the valley of so David blah blah blah. As soon as you hear the sound, Philistine army. So David did as the Lord commanded him, and he struck down the Philistines all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. David again brought together all the able young men of Israel, 30,000, Middle East countries. Yeah, okay. But are they still called the Philistines now? Who who were the Philistines? Were the ancient people who lived along southern coast of Canaan. Where did they come from? We could Gaza, ba, 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 Philistine. No, but who are they now? They don't exist anymore. Oh, they were They were conquered by the Assyrians. Then the Babylonians. What's a Babylonian? Like the Tower of Babel? After that, they disappear from history as a distinct ethnic or cultural group. There's no continuous Philistine identity, language, or community. So they're all dead. Babylon is separate from Babel. Is that where the Library of Babylon is? Are they? What? The Philistines? They're all dead. That's what ChatGPT said. They said they're all dead. Or at least like they might have they might have merged into other cultures and become different people. This is BC, Burning Crusade. Little World of Warcraft reference for all you World of Warcraft fans out there in the audience. What? David he brought 30,000 able young men. He and all his men went to Bala in Judah to bring up there from from there the ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord Almighty, who is enthroned between the cherubim on the ark. They set the ark of the God on a new cart and brought it from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. Uzazi and Uzzah and Ahio, sons of Abinadab, were guiding the new cart, with the ark of God on it, and Ahio was walking in front of it. David and all Israel were celebrating with all their might before the Lord, with the castanets, harps, lyres, timbrels, sistrums, and cymbals. When they came to the threshing floor of Nakon, Uzzah reached out and took hold of the ark of God because the oxen stumbled. Oh no, he touched the ark, guys. God does not like that. The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah because of his irre- irreverent act. Therefore, God struck him down because he died there beside the ark of God. Then David was angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah. And to this day, the place is called Perez Uzzah. David was afraid of the Lord that day and said, "How can the ark of the Lord ever come to me?" He was not willing to take the ark of the Lord to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it to the house of Obed Edom the Gittite. The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed Edom the Gittite for 3 months, and the Lord blessed him and his entire household. Now King David was told, "The Lord has blessed the household of Obed Edom and everything he has because of the ark of the God." So So David went to bring up the ark of God before from the house of Ebed to the city of David with rejoicing. When those who were carrying the ark of the Lord had taken 6 steps, he sacrificed a bull and a fattened calf. Wearing a linen ephod, David was dancing before the Lord with all his might. And he was David was dancing before the Lord with all his might. While he, while he and all Israel was bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouts and the sound of trumpets. As the ark of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window. And when she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him in her heart. They brought, what? She brought a daughter of Saul. They brought the ark of the Lord and set it in place inside of the tent that David pitched for. And David sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings before the Lord. It's because it's because Saul died. She's mad because it's Saul's daughter, and Saul hated David. They brought the ark of the Lord and set it down in its place inside the tent of David that had pitched for it. And David sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings before the Lord. After he had finished sacrificing the burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord Almighty. Then he gave a loaf of bread, a cake of dates, and a cake of raisins to each person in the whole crowd of Israelites, both men and women. And all the people went to their homes. When David returned home to bless his household, Michal, daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said, "How the king of Israel has distinguished himself today, going around half naked in full view of the slave girls of his servants, and as any vulgar fellow would." David said to Michal, "It was before the Lord who chose me rather than your father or anyone from his house when he appointed me ruler over the Lord's people Israel. I will celebrate before the Lord. I will become even more undignified than this, and I will be and I will be I can't read. I can't not very good at reading. I will be humiliated in my own eyes, but by these slave girls you spoke of will be held in honor." And Michal, daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. Relevance? I don't know why I needed to know that. After the king was settled in his palace, and the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies around him, he said to Nathan the prophet, "Here I am, living in a house of cedar, while the ark of the God remains in a tent." Nathan replied to the king, "Whatever you have in mind, go ahead of it. Go ahead and do it, for the Lord is with you." But that night the word of the Lord came to Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant David, this is what the Lord says. Are you the one to build me a house to dwell in? I have not dwelt in any house from the day I brought the Israelites up out of Egypt to this day. I have been moving from place to place with a tent as my dwelling. Wherever I have moved with all the Israelites, did I ever say to any of the rulers whom I commanded to shepherd my people Israel, Why have you not built me a house of cedar? Now then, tell my servant David, this is what the Lord Almighty says. I took you from the pasture, from tending the flock, and appointed you ruler over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone, and I have cut off all of your enemies from before you. Now I will make your name great, like the names of the greatest men on earth. And I will provide a place for my people in Israel, and will plant them so that they can have a home of their own and no longer be disturbed. Wicked people will not oppress them any more, as they did at the beginning. And have done ever since the time I appointed leaders over my people Israel. I will also give you rest from all your enemies. The Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish house for you. When your days are over and your rest with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, your own flesh and blood, and I will establish his kingdom. He is the one who will build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he will be my son. Whenever he does wrong, I will punish him with a rod wielded by men. What is he saying? When your days are over and you rest with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you. God will raise his offspring. He is the one, and I will. He was the one who built it. Who built it. Oh God. He is the one who will build my house, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he will be my son. When he does wrong, I will punish him with a rod wielded by men, with floggings inflicted by human hands. My God will whip him when he's naughty. That's not nice. But my love will never be taken away from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed before you. Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever. Nathan reported to David all the words of this entire revelation. Then King David went in and sat before the Lord, and he said, Who am I, sovereign Lord, and what is my family that you have brought me this far? And as if this were not enough in your sight, sovereign Lord, you have also spoken about the future of the house of your servant. And this decree, sovereign Lord, is for a mere human. What more can David say to you? For you know your servant, sovereign Lord. What? For the sake of your word and according to your will, uh, you have done this great thing and made it known to your servant. How great are you, sovereign Lord? There is no one like you, and there is no God but you. We have heard with our own ears. And who is like your people, Israel, the one nation on earth that God went out to redeem as a people for himself, and to make a name for himself, and to perform a great and awesome wonders by driving out nations and their gods from before your people, whom you redeemed from Egypt? And you have established your people, Israel, as your very own forever. And you, Lord, have become God. And now, Lord God, keep forever the promise you have made concerning your servant and his house. Do as you promised, so that your name will be great forever. Then people will say, The Lord Almighty is God over Israel, and the house of your servant David will be established in your sight. Lord Almighty God of Israel, you have revealed this to your servant, saying, I will build a house for you. So your servant has found courage to pray this prayer for you, to you. Sovereign Lord, you are God. Your covenant is trustworthy, and you have promised these good things to your servant. Now be pleased to bless the house of your servant, that it may continue forever in your sight. For you, sovereign Lord, have spoken, and with your blessing, the house of your servant will be blessed forever. In the course of time, In the course of time, David defeated the Philistines and subdued them, and he took Metheg Ammah from the control of the Philistines. David also defeated the Moabites. He made them lie down on the ground and measured them off with a length of cord. Every two lengths of them were put to death, and the third length was allowed to live. What? Made them lie down and measured them. Every two lengths of them were put to death, and the third length was allowed to live. So the Moabites became subject to David and brought him tribute. Moreover, David defeated Hadadezer, 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 son of Rehab, king of Zobah, when he went to restore his monument at the Euphrates River. David captured 1,000 of his chariots, 7,000 charioteers, and 20,000 foot soldiers. He hamstrung all but 100 of the chariot horses. When the Arameans of Damascus came to help Hadazer, king of Zobah, David struck down 22,000 of them. He put garrisons in the Aramean kingdom of Damascus, and the Arameans became subjected to him and brought tribute. The Lord gave David victory wherever he went. David took the gold shields that belonged to the officers of Hadadezer and brought them to Jerusalem from Tebah and Berothai, towns that belonged to Hadadezer. King David took a great quantity of bronze. When Tu, king of Hamath, heard that David had defeated the entire army of Hadadezer, he sent his son Joram to King David to greet him and congratulate him on his victory in battle over Hadadezer, who had been at war with Tu. Joram brought with him articles of silver, of gold, and of bronze. King David dedicated these articles to the Lord, as he had done with the silver and the gold from all the nations he had subdued. Edom and Moab, the Ammonites and the Philistines, and Amalek. He also dedicated the plunder taken from Hadadezer, son of Rehab, king of Zobah. And David became famous after he returned from striking down 18,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. He put garrisons throughout Edom, and all the Edomites became subject to David. The Lord gave David victory wherever he went. David reigned over all of Israel, doing what was just and right for all his people. Joab, son of Zeruiah, was over the army. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilad, was recorder. Zach, son of Zadok, son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, son of Abiathar, were priests. Sariah was secretary. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was over the Korathites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were priests. David asked, Is there anyone still left in the house of Saul whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Now there was a servant of Saul's house named Ziba. They summoned him to appear before David. And the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" "At your service," he replied. The king asked, "Is there no one still alive from the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness?" Ziba answered the king, "There is still a son of Jonathan. He is lame in both feet." "Where is he?" the king asked Ziba. Ziba answered, "He is at the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lodabar." So King David had him brought from Lodabar, from the house of Machir, son of Amiel. When Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. David said, "Mephibosheth, at your service," he replied. "Don't be afraid," David said to him, "for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table." Mephibosheth bowed down and said, "What is your servant, and you should notice a dead dog like me?" Then the king summoned Ziba, Saul's steward, and said to him, "I have given your master grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family. You and your sons and your servants are to farm the land for him and bring in the crops so that your master's grandson may be provided for. And Mephibosheth's grandson of your master will always eat at my table." Brackets. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then Ziba said to the king, "Your servant will do whatever my lord the king commands, and his servants do." So Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son named Micah, and all of the members of Ziba's household were servants of Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem because he always ate at the king's table. He was lame in both feet. They keep bringing that up. He was lame in both feet. I get it. Jesus Christ belongs to the line of David because his mother Mary is also a descendant of the line of David. True? Big if true. That's pug. Big if true. Makes sense, huh? That kind of makes sense because David is a righteous fellow. I think David has got to be the most nicest and righteousest fellow in the Bible so far. Aside from when he killed women and children. Well, you can only be so nice when you're the leader of the military, and people are trying to take you over and kill you, so you have to go in and kill their women and children. And where is Slide? Is Slide ready to play the video game? Hey, Slide. If he did, it was probably fine. Yeah, well, they were different. Uh, the people he killed were different to him. They were different, like a different of a different culture or religion. So it was okay. In the course of time, the king of the Ammonites died, and his son. I don't know if I should read anymore. Nathan. Nathan. I'm. I think I'll end it here. I think I'll message Slide and see if she's ready. Hello. Ready? Fulfilling Old Testament prophecies of Messiah from David's line. Ba 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 ba. I ate so much chicken and carbohydrates today that like no amount of water hydrates me. Everything gets sucked up into the rice and chicken. Jesus Christ fulfilling Old Testament prophecies of Messiah from David's line.